Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever it is for you. Hey, Daryl Roberts. It is just past midnight on Saturday, January 10th, which makes this the news and events for Friday, January 9th, day 1415 of Russia's three-day special military operation against Ukraine. How do you do? I'm Peter Alexievich, and this is the Live at 5 from Kyiv, coming to you from this major European capital, which is currently under air alert. I see the peeps are coming in. Hey, Seawolf. Hey, Refurb Man. Van, my man. How you living? Did you see your video today? I think I'm funny. Hey, Refurb. Hey, Truth Hurts. Hey, Leo Ring. Hey, Chrissy Locks. Hey, George. Anthony Tommy Tom is here. Hey, Yvonne. Hey, T-Bone. You know, I assume it's you, T-Bone. Maybe I'm wrong. But, you know, I mentioned the other day on the live that I hadn't had anybody join the Patreon in over a month. And two people joined the Patreon like that night. You, I think it was you, T-Bone, and Game. And I was very grateful for that, very appreciative, because as I said, because as you all know, I would not be able to continue to do this without the support of the Patreon folks. And I can't remember the last time we went a month without anybody joining the Patreon. And as the economic situation in the United States deteriorates, I lost a number of Patreon supporters in the meantime. So I really appreciate it. Thank you. Speaking of Patreon supporters, I didn't see him come in yet, but our sponsor for tonight is Ben Tilley. Hey, June. That might be a real problem tonight, let me tell you. Okay, that was you, T-Bone. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Look, things are not good in Kyiv. Like, that's just reality, which is exactly what the Russians want. They want the population of Ukraine suffering. So I can tell you, for me, the power has been off and on all day. I would be unsurprised if we didn't have some interruption in the power during this live. We have had no heat at all today. None. I've been keeping the house warm with supplemental electric heaters and wearing sweaters and stuff, layers. We had no water for much of the day. You can hear the washing machine going because I have to finish that load of laundry before the day is out. And that's just a reality, right? And I don't say this in an effort to get sympathy from anybody. I choose to be here. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be here. But I mention it because of my 87-year-old neighbor, because of my buddy Yaro's mother upstairs. The regular people of Ukraine right now in this city with the air alarm going, it's 14, no, the high today was 14 degrees Fahrenheit, about -8 Celsius. And right now people are piling into the subways for the night because, oh, have I not blocked you yet? I've been meaning to block you. Let's get rid of you right now. I did mean to delete all your comments and block you. There you go. You're gone. We do not need you here. They're piling into the subways, into the metro, which is unheated, with their children and older people in an effort to avoid being blown up tonight by the incoming missiles and drones that we are expecting. Just before the live, I heard some anti-aircraft fire. We are expecting tonight to be another loud night here. Now, last night, what we saw was a scaled Russian attack against energy infrastructure in Ukraine. No, Steve, it's the washing machine. Look, pal, I got to finish that one load of laundry. while there's water and light, right? Like it's got to be done. No, nobody in this town is really safe, right? On Monday, I'm going to publish a video on the Patreon for the Patreon followers. And the Patreon, you can get a free account and see these videos, in which I'm going to publish some photographs that my buddy sent me from just across the river, from where I live right here, of an apartment building that was absolutely devastated. It was a double tap strike with Shahed drones. The Shaheds, the second round showed up as rescue workers were digging out a mother, a grandmother, and a 5-year-old from under the rubble. And one EMT was killed and 4 others injured in that double tap strike. Now, despite the fact that over 100 drones were sent at Kyiv last night, there were only 4 fatalities. Now, look, I'm not trying to minimize the pain and suffering of those 4 families and the personal tragedy that it is for all of them. But we're talking about over 100 drones and 30 missiles last night, and 4 people were unalived. That's the return on investment that Moscow is getting. Their goal is not to unalive everybody. Their goal is to make Ukraine unlivable for the people of Ukraine, to deny the Ukrainian people every modern convenience, water, heat, light, and create a refugee crisis in Europe. That is the goal. Well, it's one aspect of it, right? It's the hybrid war against Russia, against Europe by Russia, flooding Europe with Ukrainian refugees and other refugees. And it's the desire to clean Ukraine out, to flush it out of all Ukrainians, so that it is a tabula rasa that Russia can rewrite in its own image. The goal here is no less than the complete abnegation of Ukrainian history, culture, and language, and its erasure from the world. That is the goal, which is why Russia will never stop, which is why they will continue to make up excuses why this genocide continues for as long as, until every Ukrainian is gone, until everyone is gone. That is the reality of this situation. So last night, the Russians sent 242 drones. Now dig this. About half of them were targeted at Kyiv, and Kyiv has the best air defense probably in the world, or certainly in Europe. 93% interception rate last night. They sent 36 missiles, 18% interception rate on the missiles. Now, the big thing that we've been talking about for the last 24 hours, of course, and the news that broke here on the live, at least it broke for me, was the fact that the second Oreshnik of this war was unleashed against Ukraine. The target was not the city of Lviv, but rather the underground natural gas storage facility just outside of the city of Lviv, in the Lviv Oblast. This is important because this exposes, a couple of things. The first thing is that this is a non-military target. This is a gas storage facility that stores the civilian gas reserves that drive the turbines that provide electricity and heat for much of Ukraine. 50% of Ukraine's gas stockpile is stored there. Now, the Ukrainians have not told us how much damage was done. But unlike when a Russian gas line goes up, right? And we get all those videos on Telegram from the Russians with flames shooting 300 feet in the air. I was not able to find any video of any burning gas pipelines, flames, nothing. And in a world where everybody has a cell phone, it is hard to hide those kinds of hits if they're successful. At the same time, what we have not gotten from the Ukrainians is a damage assessment. Now, that could be because the gas stockpile is so essential to Ukraine's security, the fundamental ability of the country to continue to, function as a functioning nation. It's so critical to Ukrainian security that they're not going to give us a damage assessment because they don't want the Russians to know how successful they were. It could also be that they don't want the Russians to know that they failed, that they didn't do any damage. Now, the reality is I don't know. I don't know if all the gas got burned up last night, but it happened underground and we just don't know about it, or if nothing was damaged. I just don't know. If anybody has a valid source out there that can give me a damage assessment, I would love to see it. Somebody named D just joined the Patreon. Thank you, D. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, now, where do I want to start with this thing? Regarding the attack on the gas infrastructure last night. Yeah, Raven, we talked about it last night, but you weren't here. I even asked for you. I said, where's Raven? Right? Raven's going to love this. It's not water, Birdie. I have to keep saying this. It's the washing machine. Look, pal, you got to give me a break. While we have water and electricity, I got to get that load of laundry done, buddy. I just got to get it done. So there's nothing, we just got to live with it, pal. It'll be done soon. Now, Andrei Shibia, the foreign minister for Ukraine, condemned this attack. The Russians are saying that this attack with Oreshnik, Scully, it's socks. I need clean socks. This attack with Oreshnik, the Russians say that they did it because it was retaliation for the attack on Putin's Valdai residence. Now, for anybody who has been following the events in Ukraine, you know that the CIA, other independent Western intelligence agencies, have all said that there was no Ukrainian attack on Putin's Valdai residence. That did not happen. My favorite part was that the only evidence that Russia gave that there was an attack on the president's palace was they showed some drone debris that they claimed was from the attack, only it was a Russian Gabera drone. I mean, I'm telling you, since they offed Eugene, Russian propaganda has gone to shit. They literally showed a drone that they build, that only they build, and they claim that that's what it was. I mean, it's a joke. So Shibia called that assertion absurd. And he went on to say that this demonstrates Moscow doesn't need reasons for its terror and war. And he's absolutely right. Right? That's what we learned from this nonsense assertion from the Russians, that this was retaliation for an attack that never happened. They are happy to make up their own lies as justification for this war. in the same way that they lied about Ukraine shelling Russian-speaking populations in the Donbass, outlawing the Russian language. These things are nonsense Russian lies. Now, we have a lot of Russian lies exposed in the last 24 hours, which I will come to in 1 minute. But let's continue to look at the official response from Ukraine and others to last night's attack. The foreign minister again called it a grave threat to the security of European partners. The common thinking here is that the use of the Oreshnik was intended not merely to try to destroy Ukraine's winter gas reserves, but it was also, because it happened right on the border with Poland, it was meant to send a message to the West. Fear us. Fear might be Russia. Because that's all they have is fear. That's all they have to trade in is your fear of them. He went on to say that it's a test for the transatlantic community and demanded strong responses to Russia's reckless action. Now, unfortunately, with Donald Trump in office, if this is a test of the transatlantic unity, the transatlantic partnership, and the will of the West to resist Russian aggression, we're going to fail. We're going to fail. Because you know goddamn well Donald Trump is not going to do a thing about this. In fact, I have seen not a word from the White House about this attack. We don't need Greta Thunberg. Ukrainian kinetic sanctions, the Ukrainian branch of Just Stop Oil, is doing a fine job on its own. Ukraine has called for emergency meetings of the UN Security Council, the NATO Council of Europe, and the OSCE. Kaja Kallas, the EU's head diplomat, said that this represented a clear threat to the EU and an escalation of the war in Ukraine. Now, for my part, oh, I know the Scandinavians aren't afraid of the Russians. Oh, no, they're not. Oh, look at Turkey Doctor came back as the tractor. Like we don't know. It's so pathetic. It's so pathetic. Oh, I know you're not, Arn. I know you're not. Now, look, for my part in this, which is the smallest part of it, but I posted a video last night after the live about the Oreshnik strike. And I must have really hit a nerve because, as I Ruin Everything correctly points out, bots are working overtime today. Now, look, we can learn a lot from the lies that these bots are being paid to tell. We can learn a lot from it. So the first thing is that this is a retaliation for the Valdai strike, which goes to the point that the Russians don't deal in truth. They don't deal in reality. They are happy to make shit up to justify their genocide in Ukraine. No problem. Further, this was a big one for me. They keep talking about, you don't understand, Russia strong, Russia mighty, West is weak. If West strong, if West not afraid of Russia, why not West attack Russia? This is the propaganda line. Now look, this demonstrates a clear kind of might makes right thinking. These people think to themselves, if you have something I want and you are weaker than I will just take it. That is how the world works. There is no appeal to the spirit of fraternal cooperation, which is the hallmark genius of our species, our defining characteristic, and the secret to our success in the world. It is not our competition or our predatory instincts and nature toward each other that define us. It is our ability to cooperate in a way in which we both win. But there are too many weak people out there, men, let's be honest, this is mostly men. Too many weak men out there who think that other people exist to be preyed upon. And in the case of some of these people, to be bought and sold. And that thinking is deeply revealed in these comments from the trolls. It is not only an intellectual and moral failure, it is a failure that leads to cultural collapse. You can't have a society that is based on predatory instinct. By definition, if might makes right and the strong can prey on the weak, then that is a society and a culture that is doomed to eat itself alive. Because the appetites of people like Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump, I will point out, are insatiable. The greatest lie that Putin has ever convinced the West of is that he can be appeased, that he can have enough. There is no world where that is true. And these comments are frighteningly reminiscent, or not even reminiscent. They echo quite precisely the comments we had from Stephen Miller in the United States this week, talking about the law of the jungle, that it is the nature of man for the strong to take what they want. Very, very disturbing commentary. Another lie that we keep hearing from them is that Russia is fighting all of NATO. Russia fighting 20 countries alone. Russia fighting 30 countries. Russia fighting 50 countries alone. This is such an obvious and pathetic lie that I'm not even going to spend any time on it. Let's just move on. They keep saying, you'll be afraid of Oreshnik. You'll be sorry for Oreshnik when the Russians put a nuke on it. Russia's not going to put a nuke on it. There are analysts who think Russia can't put a nuke on it. So the nature of the conventional explosives and the required fissile material to build a nuclear bomb increases the payload so much for this weapon that there are analysts who have done some math and they say you can't put a nuke of any size on it. You'd have to redesign the rockets. You need more fuel. If you tried to put a nuke on it, it would likely blow up in the silo. And then you think about the fact that half of these that they've tried to launch have in fact blown up in the silo. Were those tests that were attempting new payload capacity? I don't know the answer to that. But there are analysts out there who believe that that's exactly why they failed. So there's two things at work here. There's two lies, or there's two reasons why the idea of putting a nuke on an Oreshnik is a lie. One, we don't know that it's technically possible, that you could even do it from a technical perspective. And then the other piece of it is political. We all know that if Russia uses a nuke, that's the end of Russia. The world will not stand for it. And both France and the UK have nukes of their own. Even if the American nuclear umbrella is not extended to protect Ukraine, France and the UK are standing by Ukraine, and they've got nukes, and they're worried about Russian nukes themselves. Russia using a nuke. Oh, and then of course Modi and Xi have both warned Putin not to dare go nuclear. The only friends he has left in the world. Den, it's highly unlikely that the Russians have maintained their nukes. So, as I understand it, the consensus among experts in this area is that none of the tactical nuclear devices in Russia's nuclear arsenal work at all. Right? The smart people, the people who understand these things, hey, Dave, say the tactical nukes don't work. So the first generation of Soviet layer cakes used a lithium deuteride fissile trigger, which has a half-life of 12.4 years, I think. Or no, that's tritium. Well, anyway, it's a short half-life. So definitely none of those work. Then the second generation that used the tritium fissile triggers, they've got a half-life of 12.4 years. Tritium costs about $30,000 a gram to produce. There's no way. The Russians don't have the budget to keep that up. So the consensus is none of the tactical nukes work. As Raven is saying, the strategic nukes are another story. What percentage of those work is anybody's guess. Russia spends roughly 20% of the US budget on the maintenance of a nuclear arsenal that's about equivalent size. And so if you're spending 20% to maintain the same arsenal, you're not maintaining it. That's not a thing. Some percentage of the Russian nuclear stockpile is worthless. We just don't know how much. The way that the Russians are going on about it and threatening it all the time, I'm inclined to say probably very little. I mean, methinks he doth protest too much. Remember Putin in early March of 2022, right after the full-scale invasion. He threatened the West with the 3 Fs. He said, I will cut off the fuel to Europe and you will freeze. I will destroy the food that you produce and there will be famine. And finally, he threatened the West with fire. He threatened us with fission, nuclear fission. And he said, I am not bluffing. I remember watching the translated words on the screen, I am not bluffing. And immediately I thought, you're bluffing, you son of a bitch. You know you're bluffing. You know you're bluffing. So it's my opinion that given the fact, all of these things, plus the fact that we know, or rather we believe based on European and American intelligence, that the Russians spent over the summer $400 million on a campaign to convince, right? They spent $400 million to get Ugandans and Indonesians and South Africans and Ghanans to go on social media, pretend to be Americans and Europeans, and make us all afraid that Russia was ready to nuke us. If you have to go to those lengths to convince your opponents that you're ready to press the button, you ain't ready to press any buttons. It's a psyop. It's psychological warfare, just like the Oreshnik. Just like the Oreshnik. The Russians make the claim that the Oreshnik can carry a nuclear warhead, which means that every Oreshnik launch takes resources, response from the West. It drains us, right? But it doesn't appear to be a real threat of any kind. Not as far as I can tell. Not as far as I can tell. Just as a side note, somebody was making fun of my analysis, which is not actually my analysis. I'm just repeating what trusted analysts and intelligence agencies have said about the Russian Oreshnik and nuclear armaments, right? It's not me talking. It's just what I've gleaned from what I've read. And the guy said, listening to you talk is like trying to listen to a farmer talk about quantum mechanics. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, I love quantum mechanics. I am a big fan of quantum field theory. I think it's fascinating, right? And before I came to Ukraine, I had a little farm. So I am literally a farmer talking about quantum mechanics. And this guy pissed me off so much. I actually did a video of Alpine Cats, the LHC rap, which was so much fun to do. And I don't really expect anybody to watch it because it's not very good. But it was a lot of fun to do. And you saw it, Feisty, right? It was funny, right? Hey, Maddie, right? So anyway, it was funny. It was funny. It was funny. It was fun to do. I love letting my hair down. All right, before we move on to other news, does anybody have any follow-up questions about Oreshnik, the strikes last night, what's happening here in Ukraine right now, just before we move on to other news? It was funny, right, Alice? Good. Good. Funny is good. I like funny. Things are very serious right now. Having a little fun is a good idea. I don't see how it can escalate. I don't know exactly how this thing could escalate any further. We're now into the 5th calendar year of what should have been a 3-day special military operation. Russia has thrown everything it has. Oh, that was another Russian lie that came up in the comments. Russia saving its best weapons for last. Nobody does that. That's not how wars get fought. What if Russia pulls the dead hand? Well, that's not how the dead hand works, if it works at all. So we don't really know if the dead hand system is still a thing. The dead hand system was supposedly designed in the Soviet Union. And what it was supposed to do was, in the event of a U.S. first strike on Russia, on the USSR, an automated system would kick in and launch all the nukes at the U.S. That's the dead hand system. The fact is, nobody can verify that it was ever working under the Soviets. And given the way that Putin steals everything for himself and does not reinvest in the country, it seems extraordinarily unlikely that the dead hand system is operational, if it ever was. It's mostly a kind of Cold War urban myth that we don't have any evidence was actually functional. So the dead hand system doesn't worry me at all. How are your Ukrainian neighbors? Bernard, I don't know. I didn't talk to anybody today. Last night I didn't get any sleep, as you can imagine, about 2 hours. So then I got up this morning and I got the numbers out on Blue Sky and Threads and all that stuff. And I had to go back to sleep. And I slept about 4 hours in the middle of the day. I woke up and then I started making videos and I didn't stop. I don't even know how many videos I made today. So it's been a busy day and I have not talked to anybody. And I meant to call Victoria and see if her heat was on. I know it's not because mine's not, but it doesn't. So I don't really know how the neighbors are. I'm very sorry to say. Right, and the T-14 Armada will be rolling out soon. Hysterical. Yeah, guys, look, don't jump on each other over legitimate questions. Believe me, if I don't think the question is legitimate or asked honestly, you'll know. Hello, 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 hello. What's the feeling of the people? Are they more positive? You know, again, Clive, I haven't been out much. And I haven't been with a large group. Oh, no, that's not true. Just last week, I went to a Toastmasters meeting, and everybody there was in pretty good spirits. It's hard to say, look, these days are dark days. It's tough. It's tough not knowing if you're going to be able to take a shower in the morning. It's tough having to run the washing machine at midnight, which is a disturbance to the neighbors, a disturbance to you. But we have power and water right now, and I have to have socks tomorrow. You know, it's tough. It's tough. How many Bradleys does Ukraine have? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Lars or Nightshade, do you guys know off the top of your heads how many they got, how many have been destroyed, and how many they have left? I don't know. Eli, because I slept, through the middle of the day, I didn't get to the butcher. No, so I didn't make soup yet. Ryan, I would not have the same wish. Ryan is singing a song that I've heard a lot, and that increasingly I hear from Ukrainian propaganda channels, that Ukraine should get nukes back for itself. Or, as Ryan says, Ukraine should never have given up its nukes, right? And where did that comment go? You guys didn't just block Ryan, did you? Hey, Bjorn. There it is. I wish Ukraine kept their nukes is the exact quote. Here's the thing, man. If Ukraine had kept their nukes, it's my opinion, the Kremlin would never have left this place, would never have loosened its grip enough that the Maidan could have happened in 2014 and that Ukraine could have pulled itself out from under the yoke of Russian imperialism. Now, we'll never know the answer, but if the stakes were that high, if Ukraine had kept its nukes, looking at how Russia's claws were in this country right up until 2014, I don't think we'd have a union state. We'd have Belarus, Ukraine, and Russia all being run by the Kremlin, in my opinion. Now, look, if the Ukrainians want nukes again, which I hope they don't, we need fewer of them in the world, not more. Ukraine has everything it needs to make them themselves. Maybe they need a centrifuge. But I think they pretty much have everything they need. Hey, Bjorn. 200 plus Bradleys down from 300. Thanks, Deep Seek. Hey, Bobby. Hey, Debbie. Okay. Couple other news items, a couple other things of interest here. On the front line, Russia continues to push in the Sumy direction. They have recently claimed that they have captured the town of Andivka, right up by the Russian border. The Ukrainian armed forces refute this claim. Similar talk and status on Huliopol down in Zaporizhia, where the Russians claim that they've captured Huliopol, but then the Ukrainians release footage which shows them fighting in Huliopol. So it looks like that's also pretty static. Zaporizhia is the front to watch right now, it appears. The Russians are pushing hard. And notably, we are now getting reports that the human safari the Russians have been running in Kherson, where they train drone pilots by having them hunt down Ukrainian civilians on the streets of Kherson city. It appears that they are now beginning to do that in Zaporizhia city as well. So the Russians are doing everything they can to make life hell for the Ukrainians and to drive them out of Ukraine. United 24 had a neat story today that amid the manpower disparity crisis between Ukraine and Russia, right? Russia has so many bodies it can throw into the meat grinder, and Ukraine does not have bodies to waste. Ukraine must therefore increasingly turn to unmanned systems forces. And a saying has arisen among the unmanned systems forces: robots and drones go first. I want to put that on a t-shirt. Robots and drones go first. I love it. And the article offered some very interesting statistics. So in July, in the month of July, according to the Ukrainian Armed Forces, Unmanned Systems Forces, drones took out 16,000 Russian troops permanently. In September, they took out 18,000 Russian troops. The Ukrainians are making the claim that in December alone, unmanned systems forces, drones, and robots took out 33,000 Russians, over 1,000 a day, removed from the battlefield. So they're very interesting statistics. And and we see this happening. We see the Ukrainians deploying unmanned drones and robots to defend the country, while the Russians are tying Starlinks to horses. We're seeing the devolution of the Russian war machine in real time, even as the Ukrainian war machine creates the 21st century battlefield. It's a privilege to be here to see it, I'll tell you. Did I tell you guys I had dinner with a guy who makes ground drones? Really interesting guy, working on very interesting things, I'll tell you. One of the things he's working on, and that you can help with, actually, let me give a little commercial to Dutch Cossack here, is nets, anti-drone nets for Ukraine. He and Dutch Cossack and their coalition partners have now delivered 16,000 tons of nets to Ukraine. So if you see Dutch Cossack around, or if you don't follow him, maybe give him a follow, because the net initiative is saving Ukrainian lives. Probably tens of thousands of Ukrainian lives. Now, Russia hit Ukraine bad last night, but Ukraine hit Russia back. The Oriol and Belgorod power and thermal heating units were hit. Now, Oriol apparently had some kind of backups, and power was not out there, but Belgorod was plunged into darkness. We might have been plunged into darkness, but so were the people of Belgorod. Axios is reporting that Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, following the Paris Coalition of the Willing meeting, ran like the subservient lapdogs they are to report everything to Kirill Dmitriev. So now that's not how Axios put it. That's my take on it. But they simply said that following the meeting with the Europeans, Witkoff and Kushner met with Kirill Dmitriev, who is the Russian main negotiator on Ukraine. And he runs Russia's sovereign wealth fund, which now has less cash in it, $37 billion, we think, than the budget deficit for the Russian Federation for 2025, which is $60 billion. That's a big deal for the Russians, boy. $60 billion in the US with its $30 trillion a year GDP is not the big deal that it is to the Russians with their $2.5 trillion a year GDP. It's not even the same sport. Ukraine is reporting that billionaire friend of Donald Trump and heir to the Estee Lauder cosmetic empire has purchased control of lithium reserves in Ukraine. Now, according to the sealed bids, he outbid all other competitors by a substantial amount and won the bid. So, but it is curious that it's a billionaire friend of Donald Trump's that won the bid. And in the current climate, one can't say that it isn't a good idea to be making Donald Trump I mean, I hate to say it. You know I hate to say it. But Ukraine's got to think about their own future. I mean, look, just because he inherited the fortune, his fortune from the Estee Lauder company, doesn't mean he doesn't have his fingers in lots of pies. The guy's a billionaire, and it's not all from Foundation Cosmetics. Okay, I want to thank the sponsors of tonight's live, Ben Tilley, Guy Matthews, and our buddy Jerry O from Ireland. Thank you, gentlemen. I could not do this without you guys. If you're not a member of the Patreon, and if you won't join the Patreon, maybe you could sponsor a live. PayPal's in the description. Big thanks to Lars, who has the Discord server, Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group, and of course, to the best moderator team on the Tickety Talk, Feisty, Maddie, Travis, and Roy. Thanks, guys. Night, Sammy. Okay, we got about 8 minutes left. So that's all my top line news stuff. Questions, comments, anything from anybody? How would a combined delivery of Tomahawks and Taurus change the way? So neither of those things is going to happen. And even if they did, no, I mean, look, I'm not a military expert, but listening to people like General Chip Chapman, Ben Hodges, Sir General Richard Sharif, these guys all keep saying the same thing. No one weapon is going to win this war. One has to think about the cumulative effects of systems integration across multiple domains of the battle space. And that's a very different thing to think of than to think there's a magic bullet. So, first of all, Trump is not giving tomahawks. The Germans are not giving Taurus. So it's a completely, is that James? I don't know who asked that question because my internet is really shitty right now. It's a hypothetical question that is unlikely to have any bearing on reality. And I'm tired these days. I don't have time for speculation. Close out with quantum theory limericks. Now, the Higgs boson, that's the one that everybody talks about. And it's the one sure thing that this machine did figure out. Because the Higgs exists, we saw it right away. And now the scientists can finally say, we don't need new physics to account for why things have mass. The standard model stands the test of time. Now, the Higgs, I still haven't said just what it does. They suppose that particles have mass because there is this Higgs field that extends through all space, and some particles race through while some particles slow down while others race. Like the photon. It has no mass, while something like a top quark is dragging its ass. And the Higgs is the boson that carries the force that make particles take mass from the field that is its source. And they detected it. Does that make you happy, Bobby? Clinkers Kelly is confused by the relationship between the U.S. and Russia. As right you are to be confused by it, pal. And that's because right now, the United States is schizophrenic. The Trump administration is on Putin's side and in Putin's corner and doing everything to make Ukraine surrender. While every American that understands our history knows that Russia is our enemy and is deeply suspicious of anything and everything that Russia does. So you have an executive in charge that is doing everything he can to undermine the lawful government of the United States that recognizes its enemy as Russia and his partner, Russia. That's the problem we have right now. And only one of those views can be correct. It's also important to say, Clinkers, that the United States did not steal those oil tankers. There are warrants out for those sanctioned vessels that are in violation of international sanctions and are being used actively to circumvent international law and sell sanctioned Russian oil. The guys who took the tankers, if Donald Trump were a micromanager, you can almost be sure he would have told them not to grab those tankers because they're Russian. That's why the crew painted a big Russian flag on the side. But he's not involved at that level. Those guys down at the lower level are there to execute those warrants, enforce those sanctions. They did the right thing, which I feel certain Donald Trump would have stopped if he could have. So I'm having a real hard time finding out anything about the crews of the tankers. Maria Zakharova, the Russian mouthpiece, has made some claims, but there's zero evidence to back them up. Scully, where did you get that? Because the only source for that story that I could find today was Maria Zakharova, the Kremlin mouthpiece. So, you know, and was it in the Moscow Times? Because the Moscow Times reported that Maria Zakharova made that claim, not that it had actually happened. So that's an important detail there. Yeah, no, you can't trust that. I can't even find an authoritative source that tells us what the national makeup of the crew is. Yeah, Bobby, that's my big question. What's on that tanker that required half a dozen Russian warships and a sub to go to escort it back to Murmansk, but the Americans beat them there and took control of it. And they had to sit in a choppy, ice-cold, bitter North Atlantic just watching their oil tanker pulled away. Thanks, Den. Well, John, we feel pretty confident that the tanker that the Coast Guard chased for 2 weeks across the Atlantic had no oil on it, just based on how high it's sitting in the water. It could not have had oil on it, at least not of any quantity. We don't know what other cargo might have been on the ship. The Americans have not told us. John, I'm unaware of any casualties from the Oreshnik hit. Now remember, the target was a gas storage facility at night. There's not likely to be a lot of employees, if any, there. And it was not a civilian or residential neighborhood. It's this gas storage facility. As far as I know, only 4 people were unalived last night, and all of them in Kyiv. I thought Caroline Levitt was the Russian mouthpiece. You are not wrong, Paul. You are not wrong. Night, Jan. Hey, Pingu. Ship's officers could face charges in courts, as well they should. Hey, George is gorgeous. The laundry is done, Flip. Yes, thank God. You know, it wouldn't even have lasted that long. It should have been done before the live. But the power kept going in and out, so it kept stopping, starting, stopping, starting. Sorry, guys. I just had to get it done. Right, Den? I'm hoping we find out that the attack was a complete failure. That's really what I'm hoping. Because you know my opinion. My opinion is that Oreshnik is a $120 million a pop boondoggle by the Russians. It's garbage. Steve, it's the same thing here. Underground storage is, natural underground openings. Either places where they earlier took oil out from, and so there's a drained aquifer. So there's a void in the ground, and then you just pump gas in there. It's the same thing here. Now, if that void is so far underground, right, the Oreshnik in Dnipro, it seems to me, if I remember right, they buried themselves about a dozen meters in the earth. It's entirely possible that these limestone caverns are much deeper than that. And the Oreshnik hits didn't even get close. Thanks, Flip. We don't know. I don't know. Yep, I'm aware of Dagger's work. I have Becca from Spirit of Ukraine Foundation, and Blue Ariel Silk, when they visited me here in September, brought me one of his sunflower t-shirts. It's very nice. I like it. Oh, yeah, Scully. That's how the American Strategic Oil Reserve is mostly stored as well. No, Bobby, there's no video from the Lviv hit at all except a doorbell, what appears to be a doorbell cam or maybe a security camera you can see the multiple independent warheads, zoom, zoom, zoom coming in. But it's too far away. And when it's done, there's no fire reflected off the clouds, as we've become so used to seeing with Russian oil refineries. We don't know. We just don't know right now. Oh, you're funny, Van. You are fucking funny. You're also a little insulting, right? Like, I know I should invite a grandmother over, but you know, I do better than that here, brother. Russia doesn't buy oil from Venezuela. Venezuelan crude oil is a heavy, sour crude that you have to blend with other lighter, sweeter crudes to make it useful. Or I think the big product is naphtha. The Russians sell the Venezuelans naphtha so that they can blend it to make it into something useful, is my understanding. Thanks, TW. Is the guy who's unwell in the International Space Station Russia? Is somebody sick in the ISS? I'm not aware of that, Cheshire's Cheese. I'll check it out. Oh, there, Woodstain confirms what I just said. They sell naphtha and get oil to haul elsewhere. The gilfs. All right, that's it for me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time, your attention, and your patience. Again, big thanks to Ben Tilley, my buddy Jerry O in Ireland, and our friend Guy Matthews, who are the sponsors of tonight's live. Big thanks to Lars, who has the Discord server, Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces, and of course to the best moderator team on the Tickety Talk. Thank you all, everybody. Have a great day and a pleasant tomorrow. Take care. Oh, actually, pleasant weekend. See you on Monday. Good night.